Hello, it's Mr. Shrum, and I'm just going to finish up 1.1, the skin, cells, and anatomy section. But we stopped before I could get to hair, nails, and glands. So we are back on that. So, like we said before, this integumentary system includes your skin, glands within your skin, hair, and your nails. And the main function or functions of this system, there, I zoomed in for a little bit. It helps maintain our body temperature, averaging out at 98.6 degrees. It protects us from foreign invaders entering into our bodies. It senses pain, cold, hot, or pressure changes. It excretes fluids, and it's able to produce vitamin D from direct sunlight. So it's a very important system to maintain homeostasis. And in this lesson, we're going to look at how this system is able to do this by looking into glands, hair, and nails. First up, glands. And in order to understand how this system helps regulate temperature, we have to understand the structures involved. All right, so sweat glands, everybody knows sweat glands. These are also called sudoriferous glands. And they're simple tubules that become coiled in the dermis. And if you remember from earlier, the dermis is that middle layer of skin. And these glands allow a fluid solution, which is sweat, to be secreted onto the skin surface. And sweat cools the body down. Sweat glands are located all over the body. And this is their main function, to help regulate body temperature. So if you get too hot, these glands will secrete sweat. And once it's on the surface of your body, the wind will hit the water and cool down your skin. So when our body senses the hot weather, blood vessels widen in the dermis layer. And when that happens, these glands filter blood plasma and create salty sweat. This sweat comes out through the pores on the outermost layer, the epidermis. And next, the sweat evaporates, causing heat from the body to release, allowing the body to cool down. The opposite happens when we sense cold temperatures. Blood vessels in the skin will narrow, and the body does not sweat or produce sweat. Sebaceous glands are tiny little glands connected to hair follicles, found all over the body, except where there's no hair. There are a few regions on the body where there's no hair. They consist of an oily substance called sebum. And this is pushed into the hair follicles and up the hair shaft to the skin surface. Sebum is the oily substance responsible for preventing hairs from drying out. But this sebum can also form pimples on your skin. So it's helpful, but it can also be annoying as heck. Ceraminous glands are modified sweat glands, and these guys are only found in the ear. They produce wax in your ear canal, or ceramin. Hair, in most mammals, hair or fur is used to insulate heat. However, in humans, hair doesn't quite work the same way. Our hair is a lot shorter and a lot thinner. It's not really fur-like. Humans have hair all over the body, except on, our lips and the palms of our hands. There's no hair going on there. So hairs are filaments or threads made of keratin that grow from the follicle found in the hypodermis, which is the lowest layer of the skin, and push up through the dermis and then up to the top surface layer, the epidermis. Hair follicles are formed in utero about 22 weeks and are found in the epidermis and dermis. So 22 weeks into a pregnancy, hair follicles are already being formed. Hairy baby. Inside the follicle is a lining called the internal root sheath. You can see here. Internal and then outer root. The internal root sheath is made of several layers of cells containing keratin. The internal root sheath lines the follicle and the sebaceous glands. Surrounding the follicle is the external root sheath. This is a layer of epidermal cells that acts as a protection of the hair follicle. So one's inside and one sheath layer is on the outside. The part of the hair that is known as the root is found in the hair follicle. Hair is alive at the inferior end of the follicle called the hair bulb. So on this end, within the skin, it is alive. The bulb surrounds tiny projections called papilla, which are dermis layer cells that contain capillaries and help create more hair cells. And this is because the cells of the hair divide and create new cells in the follicle. The shaft of the hair begins in the follicle and extends up through the skin. And this is the part where we see hair, right? So all this part is hidden within our skin, but then we see this bit sticking out. Like we discussed before, melanin gives your skin its color. And it's produced by cells called melanocytes. These are also found in hair follicles, and that's what gives your hair its color. So we have melanocytes in our skin, and then we also have it in our hair follicles. Pretty cool. The sebaceous glands open right into the hair follicle to release the lubricating oils. If you've ever experienced goosebumps, where your skin has those tiny little raised bumps, then you know the hairs pull upward when we are cold or sense a chill. And this is due to a tiny little muscle called the erector pili muscle that attaches to the hair and the epidermis. So right here, it's attached to the skin, the epidermis, and the hair follicle. And now we're going to get into the growth cycle of hair. For hair to grow, new cells have to be produced continually. And for this to happen, hair cells go through cycles called anagen, catagen, and telogen. Now we have growth, regression, rest. And we'll look at each of those in these slides. Anagen, or the growth cycle, is the active phase where cells are rapidly dividing to make new hair cells. And once the new hair is formed, it pushes up and outward. Hair grows about 1 centimeter a month and stays in this phase for about 2 to 6 years. So it's a long process to grow your hair. The catagen cycle is the most dynamic phase. This is called the regression phase as well. And this phase lasts about 2 to 3 weeks. And this is when hair cells stop growing like they did in the previous cycle. The external root sheath decreases and attaches to the root of the hair. So we had growth. Now growth is stopping. And then in the next cycle, the telogen cycle, this is the resting part of this cycle. This phase lasts about 100 days on the scalp, but longer on other body areas. So like your eyebrow, that'll last longer than 100 days. During the cycle, follicles are at rest and we shed the hairs during this period. And then our nails, these are hard substances that grow over the end of the phalanges or fingers and toes. So here you go, finger, toenail. Nails are a layer of cells that are filled with a hard protein substance called keratin. This layer grows over the epidermal layer and provides waterproofing and protection. And it consists of other parts as well. The nail plate is the actual nail. Nail bed is the place where the nail plate rests. So the nail plate and then the area directly under the nail is the nail bed. Like it's just sleeping in the nail bed. The cuticle, the part of the nail located closest to the skin, right there. Lanula is the thicker part of the nail that is at the distal end. And distal means furthest from where the finger attaches to the body. So at the very tip. Hyponychium, located at the base of the lanula, just underneath the fingernail. So you see here, right at the tip, just underneath the fingernail. And that is it for that section. So I'll move on to the last section of this part. And we'll be talking about issues, integumentary system issues. So we looked at how the integumentary system functions and how it protects our bodies and keeps us in homeostasis, trying to maintain a stable internal environment, and it's pretty cool. However, it's not immune to certain conditions. The outer layer of our skin is constantly being replaced with new skin cells, and over time, the skin layers may thin, lose elasticity, get a little loose and dangly, or become damaged or injured. This lesson will explore all those conditions. So, younger people are less prone to this wrinkling process, but it will eventually happen. Everyone ages, and thus your skin will wrinkle. The skin becomes thinner with age, dries out, wrinkles, may appear scaly in some parts. And this is due to the thinning epidermis layer. Fibers in the dermis layer become thicker and less flexible. The adipose tissue or fat in the dermis layer decreases as well. The hair follicles, sweat glands, and sebaceous glands are not as active as well. So all these changes results in wrinkles and saggy skin. Much sun exposure over time will affect the skin adversely or negatively as well. So too much sun can be a bad thing. Calluses or hyperkeratosis is the medical name for calluses. And calluses are skin that has become thickened and sometimes dry, waxy, a little transparent, see-through in a specific place. If you work out, you may have calluses on your hands. If you walk a lot, if you run, if you're fairly active, you may have calluses on your feet as well. And this is because there's constant pressure and they can be kind of painful. Calluses may be prevented by changing the applied pressure at the specific point of pain and with the use of products sold over the counter. Blisters, I'm sure you all have experienced blisters in some form, but they cause the epidermal layer of the skin to bubble up and fill with this watery fluid. And it may cause pain, swelling, redness. Blisters are usually due to friction, irritation of the skin, but there are other causes as well. If you're sick, illness, friction, burns, very cold, just sheer coldness can blister the skin. Your skin may be reacting to medication or an ingredient, an irritant in some soap or other product you're using on your hand, or autoimmune disease, which is a type of disease where your body is actually attacking itself because it doesn't recognize things in your body as things in your body and thinks it's an outside invader. So it attacks itself. So in a way, your body is confused. You should leave blisters alone and they will heal on their own, but you can try to protect it with gauze and dress it up before letting it heal. Freckles. They're not a skin condition, but some people call them sun kisses. But these are these darkened circular flat spots on the person's epidermis. They're slightly darker than the person's other skin color, and that is caused by increases in the amount of melanin, or pigment in those specific cells. So generally, people with lighter complexions will show freckles, and increased sun exposure can increase these freckles. But they may also fade in the winter months when they don't get as much sun. Burns, you see several degrees of burns. And that's what layer of the skin is actually affected by the burn. Burns can be caused by many things: fire, hot liquid, steam, chemicals, very hot objects, electricity, and the sun. And we have 3 categories: first degree, second degree, third degree. First degree burns only the epidermis. You may feel pain, redness, swelling, and sunburns are a good example of first degree. It's burning the very top layer. But if it burns deeper to the second layer of the skin, if it burns the epidermis and the dermis, you may feel pain, redness, swelling, and blistering may start to form. But your skin's still able to regenerate. But, oh, careful. Fast forward if you don't like to look at gross stuff. But third degree burns damage all 3 layers, even the deep tissue. It may cause skin to be black, white, charred, or numb. The layers of skin are so affected that they can only repair along the edges of the burn. Usually body fluids will be lost over the recovery period. Infection and scarring is likely. Treatments for all 3 degrees of burns vary. And depending on the degree, you should talk to a doctor about it. Melanoma, it's a type of cancer. And cancer refers to any type of cell in the body that grows out of control or irregularly. So abnormal growth in your body is what cancer actually is, and that has pretty negative effects. Abnormal body tissues are referred to as a tumor, and tumors can be found in other areas of the integumentary system besides the skin. So in this example, in the sebaceous glands and sweat glands, you may find it, but most of those tumors will not spread to other parts of the body and are called benign. Benign means they exist, but they're not going to spread. But other types of tumors that can spread throughout the body are called malignant. Melanoma is the most common cause of skin cancer deaths. There are 3 types of cancers that can plague the skin: the basal cell carcinoma, squamous cell carcinoma, malignant melanoma. The first, the basal cell carcinoma, is the most common type of cancer. These cells from the stratum basal grow and divide and make it to the surface of the epidermis, forming a crust. This can be surgically removed, though. Squamous cell carcinoma It's a type of cancer that starts in the stratum symposum and may appear reddish or raised. Malignant melanoma is a type of cancer that adversely or negatively affects surrounding cells. It is not as common as the other types of skin cancers, but this one's very dangerous. It starts in the cells called melanocytes, where the melanin is found. Any brown or discolored patch of skin or mole is usually where melanoma appears. All of those discolorations should be examined by a physician for early detection. Although skin cancer causes are not known, it is believed that overexposure to the sun and its ultraviolet rays is directly related. And that is the end of that section. So I hope you found that helpful, and I will talk to you guys about the next section. So see you later.